my colleague that's just going to be with Jesus, I would love everybody to have a copy of this book, because this book is the basis of our seminar, or the basic seminar. Now, I'm not following the script, but this book is the basis of the seminar. And I would love everybody to have a copy of this, and a copy to give to people. You know, it's one of the best sellers, but I go to places around the world, some isolated places, and they've had this book. They said, we have read the book. We have read the book. This book is, and you know what? People give it as a present. They give it out to people that they know that are defeated, people that they know that are struggling, people that they know that are hard time. It's not a book you just read, it's a manual. So I would really like to encourage you. I think that you got a great price. Ingrid's telling me that there's such discounts on this that I can't believe it. Please don't tell the people in Australia you're discounting it like this. And you've got and then if you buy two, you get a whole lot more money off it. So if you can afford them, this book is one of the very best to give to people that are hurting, people that are struggling, people that are going through things without answers, people that are addictions, all sorts of things. This book, it's a manual. You don't just read it and that's it. You can go over it and over it and over it. I've had people reporting life-changing experiences by just reading the book. Amen? So, sidetracked, they're just over here. And if you would do that, I'm sorry, camera. I'm just going away because Ingrid's forsaken her post after all this time. All right, now we're in the last throw, and we've got 1 hour. Are you all right? Hey, you're doing good. I'm proud of you, absolutely. And if we're still standing in an hour, we're doing well, because you know what? You got tomorrow as well. But tomorrow's not going to be as long a day. But you know, we are going to really spend some time turning around in tomorrow into the therapy side too. So we've been talking a lot about diagnostically, but we have been talking some answers along the way, because we want to make sure we incorporate those as we're talking about. So you've enjoyed your day? You got some really good stuff? Amen. Absolutely. I know maybe, maybe it's a little bit like a drink from a fire hydrant. You know, it's just... And you lie down tonight and you think, my brain is freezing. And it just comes at you, you know, and you just think, how do I take all this information in? Because not only you get the information, but it also can affect you emotionally. Because I can talk to you, and I can be talking about somebody's experience, I can be talking about something that's going on, and that can be affecting you. Because you relate to it, and you relate to it for yourself, or you relate to it for your family, you relate to it to somebody. Because you know what? What we're discussing and talking about is relatable, is it not? If it wasn't, we'd be asleep already. The fact is, it's relatable. That's where we're living, and that's what really blesses me, to see that you're in there, that we can go, and it's a long day, but it's so good to know that we're able to look at things that's so conducive to the well-being, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physiologically. It's a good day. Amen. It'll all work out in our lives. You won't get it all together. But then here's the one thing that's good. You can just go back to the video and you can be watching. One lady said to me, she said, brother, she said, I wake up to you every morning. I said, man, you're set for a good day. I try waking up to Jesus. Anyhow, the thing is, waking up to the message, getting it into your heart, because we want this duplicated. We wanted, my desire to travel from somewhere to Australia here is not to sprout out something, it's not to come with some sort of philosophy or doctrine that I want you people to get to know. No. I want you to get something in some way from my experience and what I do and the tools that I use and the kind of model that I'm using, to be able to take it into your life and the life of other people and be able to see people come to freedom. Amen? And people come. That's my heart and my desire to do that. Now we're going to look at identity. You can go to the next one now that's got three circles on it, and we're going to try and cover this in the next hour. Identity messages. When we go there, we're going to look at those. These are identity messages that we get. Remember the bags? You'll always remember the bags, because the three circles is the one you'd be looking at now. These are identity messages. And on the circle, you can just put them in. Now, what identity messages fixed you? When I'm pulling this together and I make the profile, we will pull all of this stuff together into a profile. And that's why I said I'm going to revisit with different stories I've told, like the anorexic girl, and then I'm going to pull all that together and put it together in a profile so that you will see the entire profile, how it all comes together, and that you can do this. You don't have to be a professional because you can do this. It would be terrifying if the work of the ministry was only in the hands of a few professionals. Jesus said, go and make disciples. We're keeping this at a level in which you can be a discipler, and we're all called to do that. Amen. So I don't want you looking at me and saying, well, Ray's a psychologist, and therefore, he can do that, but I can never do it. No, you can do what I'm talking to you about. You can do that. Absolutely. You're a discipler, and this is the way of really helping people at a level that's simple enough to do that. Identity, that's in the bag. We're going down the bag that we've been emptying out, and the framework that we've been putting together. I'm not valuable. The world is lucky to have me. Now, my father, when I was born, and from the day that I ever remember, my father only gave me abusive verbal messages. In Ireland, they don't say you're stupid. They say you're thick. You're just thick. You're so thick. And then I never once had an affirming word. Never once of an affirming word from my father. It was all abusive. And here's, you talk about how powerful identity messages are. Identity messages, they go in and they create emotional damage. And do you know, they get buried so deeply in the psychic and in the emotions that getting rid of them becomes another thing. You know, I'm now growing up, and I'm in a teenager, and I'm now going to college. And you know, I sat down to do my entrance exam to college. And it's a 4 or 5 hour exam. All the other students are there, the educator's there, ready to start us off. We got our own desk and ready to go. I'm all ready to go, and my father came into my head. I could literally hear him sneering. You in college? You think you could go to college? You don't have the brains for college. You'd never make... And I'm thinking, get out! Leave me alone! And my father's controlling me all the way where I'm now sitting for an exam to go into college. I tried everything to get him out of my head, but I couldn't get him out of my head. I finished the exam inside the time, and when you finish, you can leave at whatever time you finish. I completed it all, and I finished inside the time. I walked down the steps out of the college, and you go just down the steps. I can still see myself now going down the steps. And I knew absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt that I'd failed. I had completed it. I finished it inside the time, but I still knew I'd failed it. I felt totally paralyzed and crippled on the inside. Identity message will cripple you. They damage you and they cripple you. And you know what? For a little girl, it's a whole lot worse, because you know what? A little girl has up to 85% of her identity in her father. And if she has negative aspects from the man that's the most important person in her life, it profoundly can affect her. And the identity message is horrible. And you know what? 3 weeks later, I just get a little thin envelope. And you always know when you get a thin envelope that there's nothing in it. You're not going anywhere. And sure enough, I didn't file it by much, but I filed it. But I knew I had. That's why today, by the grace and the mercy of God and the revelation that I'm sharing with you, that I've got a number of degrees now. And you know something? I remember when I wanted to kill my father after I got my first degree. And my first degree was in engineering. And I wanted to kill him. I wanted to get him and kill him and show him my degree and tell him that he was a liar and he was all of the things and everything. And there's another time when God spoke to me, and that's for another day, because it's another story. But you see, identity messages profoundly affect our lives. And the messages that affect our lives the most are the ones that come from the family of primary influence. I take them on board and I believe them, because if your father's not telling you the truth, who is? If your mother's not telling you the truth, who is? And the fact is, you buy into them and you take them inside. And you know, the identity messages that we pass on to our own children are vital in understanding what kind of messages that we have. Today's society are delivering another type of message, but because today in our society we're breeding a lot of narcissistic kids. Do you know that? We really are. Because we're giving them positive messages, pumping them up, overinflating them, forcing them into roles that they should never be doing. What about some of them pageants of those children from the US? And such an outcry there was that these little girls are being made to be, to be these stars and made to dress up and made to be pageants. You know that? And the pressure, the unbelievable pressure. And so they were going behind the scenes and talking about a lot of the stuff that's fixing them kids. And then they're pumping the kids and pumping the kids and pumping the kids with these, what they would call affirming messages. So we think, oh, we're doing it right now. No, that's breeding narcissistic kids. Because what's happening is that they are telling them all these things without any values, without any morals, without any balance. There is no guidelines and there are no boundaries. And where there are no value systems and where there are no boundaries and where they can do whatever they want as long as they can achieve and get where they want to achieve, they will become narcissistic. Now, all of us have maybe a little bit of narcissism. Narcissism is divided into about 3 characters. There's a narcissistic influence, there's narcissistic episodes, and there's narcissistic disorders. And there are definitely narcissistic influences, and children, and you see the messages are coming differently and maybe different to my generation messages, but they're doing the same thing. And then I am not valuable. And then, just like that, the world's lucky to have me. Do you see? The positive messages, without guidelines, without values, without boundaries, they're going to go off the track and be narcissistic. I'm stupid. I'm really smarter than most. See, there's the 2 different types of messages. My parents didn't want me. My parents can't get along without me. I'm not important to my dad, my sister, brother. I'm not pretty. I'm inadequate. I don't need anyone. I am insecure. I was a mistake. That was profound for me because that's what I heard. I heard that my father said that I was a mistake. I should never have been around. That's why one of my CDs now is on that very point. That I've done a CD on that, and you'd see it in my resource material. It says, why were we created? Why are we on this planet? And see, some people think, illegitimacy. They shouldn't be around. Why was I ever born? And I was a mistake. And that's what I was told, I was a mistake. I can't do anything right. I can't do anything wrong. I'm undisciplined. I'm a disappointment to others. I'm a bad student, mother, friend, husband, etc. I'm not a good Christian. Do you know what? That goes on and on. And that is what we're dealing with. Now, where are we going now? What are we looking for now? We're looking for the root rot. We're looking for the why to the what. So we have moved, we've talked a lot about the what, but now we're moving to the root rot, which is the why of the what. Are you with me? Yes, okay. Because you know what? If I talk this much all day and you didn't get anything, I'll shoot myself by tomorrow. Do you love me? Thank you. Is there just one? If there's just one. No one knows me. There you go. There you see. Now this is. Then I want to show how this plays out. So this is a fantastic diagram to then be able to work with this, because now I want to hear proving the best. Now where did I get it? Proving the worst. Divorce. These are identity messages. Now divorce. I'm not talking about the legitimacy of divorce. People get divorced and there's reasons why, and unilateral, and that can be prevented. Absolutely. But divorce is still an incredible identity message. And divorce affects thinkers, doers, and feelers all very differently. I don't think we have time to go in to talk about those differences, but I can tell you they're very, very different in the way that the children deal with divorce. Being abandoned. And of course we find that in some of these more war-torn countries and so on, in being abandoned. Being criticized. And see, people can't stand it. Thinkers particularly can't be criticized. They don't. They're very, very sensitive to criticism. It goes deep and it affects them because they're very sensitive to criticism. Name calling. Name calling is a huge thing. And it would seem such a mild sort of a thing, but it's actually a huge thing. Perfectionism is an incredible identity message. Now, here's the problem. We will go to that when we're profiling and talk a little bit about it. But I want to tell you something. There's a lot of people in Europe that are Sorry, Pet. There's a lot of people in Europe that are perfectionists. There's people in this meeting that are perfectionists. Now, let me tell you something about perfectionism. It's a killer. Because perfectionism is like legalism. It doesn't matter how much you do, you never do enough. The bar will just keep going up. Perfectionism is flesh. There's no end to it. I want to show you an illustration later on how that's affected and profoundly affected some people. Perfectionism is the flesh. Excellence is God. That means you do your very best and then you rest. Perfectionism does not allow you to rest. If you're a thinker, you will be a perfectionist. And if you're a perfectionist, you're always trying to do it better, and you'll be lying at night thinking, I should have done that. I should have done it that way. I could have done it that way. And you replay your whole day on what you could have done better. You replay on how you're going to sort it out. Instead of being able to just relax, you can't buy it back. Yeah, it's gone. I can't retrieve it, and I don't need to live there, but it'll just mess up your mind. It'll do your head in. Perfectionism is a horrible thing. Abuse. Abuse is a huge thing. That was my whole thing, abuse and name calling. Now, how are we controlled? At our very worst moment, I feel bossy, impatient, self-centered, frustrated, a loser, a loudmouth. Now, proving and you can add in all the things that you want to. This is just an illustration of what we're saying. What do I want? Fun-loving, to be positive. Intelligent, caring, talented, godly. Now, this person is no value, and that person is a person of value. So here's how I work with people, and here's how we know how to work identity, because we want to get identity right. And here's how we're going to be able to do that. That is, if you were in a group of people and you were having a talk and you were sharing, and you were to leave that group, what would you like them to say about you? Well, that's what you would like them to say about you. Fun-loving, positive, intelligent, caring, talented, godly, and so on. Because that's what you would like to be. But then the problem is, at my worst moment, I feel bossy, impatient, self-centered, frustrated, a loser, and a loudmouth. But I know that I would not be of value in the worst moment. I wouldn't be like that. And so now I want to be a person of value. So what do? I put on my success suit and change into my personality and put it on my personality, and I go out trying to be these sort of things. And people wear success suits. We put on success suit. We want to look good, because you know why? I desperately need interaction. Even though thinkers only need 2 or 3 friends at the very most, feelers just want as many friends as they can get. But we all have to interact. And here's what we do. I need you. Please come here. I need you. I want to have a good friend. I want to have a loyal friend. I want to have a deep friend. Please come here. I need you. But then, because I feel that at my very worst, this is what I do. I need you, but don't get too close. Because if you knew me like I know me, you wouldn't like me. And so I keep putting on this cover, this mask, this success suit that looks wonderful, that looks good. Why? Because I desperately want to be accepted, and I'm living in a world of constant rejection, and we don't handle rejection well, and so I want to make sure that I'm accepted. Now, the story. This young woman, 32 years old, she comes to me from another state somewhere and had been recommended to come to me to help her in helping her with more career moves. This young woman was 32, and she was a high-powered executive. So she wanted to move up in the world some more, and yet she was in the top of the tree as a high-powered executive. And so she came to me, and she walked in, and I'm telling you, she was a doll. She was just something out of the box. What would be recognized as a perfect figure. She had designer clothes on that were really expensive. She had a split all the way up to the top of her thigh in this long lime dress that she had on, and showing off these long, lean legs. She had skin that a girl would die for. She's got power, position, money, clothes, and looks. And she had everything that any young girl would desire, that would envy and would want to emulate. She's only coming to me not because she's got an issue or a problem. She's coming for me to give her new career moves. And from another state altogether. So in the course of our conversation, she says to me, I go to the gym 6 days a week to keep fit. And at that moment, I had to make a professional decision. Because now she's 32, and she's going 6 days a week to keep fit. If I give her any more to do, I'm going to finish up sending her to burnout. How much more can she do? So I launch out into the deep. And I said to her, you do not go to the gym 6 days a week to keep fit. She said, I do so. I said, you do not. She said, I do. I said, you do not. And we did that for a little bit. And then for him being really in control and you know, really strong, you know, and with it and so hip and all that, she lost it. And she says to me, all right, if you know so much, why do I go to the gym 6 days a week? And I said, I will tell you in 2 questions. I said, I am too old to be coming on to you. And secondly, I'm not patronizing you. But you really are something else. Man, you are something else. You're a doll. You look great. Because she's got this big split and she puts her legs over, you know, and she looks ever so nice. So I said to her, do you see those beautiful long legs that you're displaying? I said, how would you like cellulite to set in on those? You know, cellulite is a kind of a condition in the thighs of a woman that looks like orange peel. Men get it too, but they don't care. And when I said that to her, she went right off. She went right off. She said, see, you're a counselor and you don't listen. You're not listening to me. That's what I'm telling you. I go to the gym 6 days a week to look like this. So I said, I got a problem. I've got a problem now. You're going 6 days a week to keep that incredible figure at 32 years old. Let me see if I can do some deductions for you. My understanding of life is it's not 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. It's just my understanding. It goes 32, 33, 34, 35. So here's a problem I have. If you're going 6 days a week now to the gym to keep looking like this, by the time you reach 35, you don't need another job. You're going to have to live at the gym. So it's a waste of time giving you a career move. Because the body will change. So she just glares at me. And I said, question number 2. I know that you're a career person, but you really are very relational. Your profile shows that you're really relational. Maybe you've abandoned relationships to become a professional and it's a career, but I doubt it. I don't think you could live without relationship. So tell me, have you been in any relationships at all? She said, of course, I've been in lots of relationships. I said, I bet you have. I said, because you're one stunner. I said, you know what men do? Men look at a woman, and men's first port of call is what they see. A man's attracted by sight, attracted by what he sees. Women are not. Women can be attracted by brain, they can be attracted by humor, they can be attracted by other things. But men are attracted by sight, and then they move on. And I said, I'll bet the guys will be looking at you, and they'd be like, you know, a bee to honey. I said, you'd be something for a young guy. Of course, she's feeling good now. And I said, no, you haven't got a wedding ring on, so you're very relational, but you maybe don't want to get married. But you've been in a lot of relationships. I said, I will guarantee that every single relationship that you have ever had, that never once, not once, I don't know nothing about her, not once ever did you stop the relationship. I'll bet every single, that the guy stopped the relationship. I said, I'll bet at every single relationship you stopped it, you pulled the plug. Am I right? Well, the head goes down, and I said, now I know I'm right. You stopped every relationship, didn't you? I said, isn't that an incredible thing? I said, you've been in relationships, and I said, you'll never get married. And yet you need somebody, you want to be with somebody, you want to be in a relationship, but you can't keep a relationship. Now, isn't that an incredible thing? You've got position, you have got money, you have got designer clothes, you have got great looks, you have got incredible skin, and you can't even keep a relationship. I said, I'm going to tell you why you go to the gym. And I did it in 2 questions, and you've proved it. I'll tell you the reason you go to the gym. You don't go to the gym to keep fit at all. There's a far deeper issue for you going to the gym. The reason you can't keep a relationship, and you always stopped it and never the young man, is because everything about you says, come here, I want you. Come here, I want you. Come here, I want you. Because you have an incredible need for that. But then they date you. You feel good. It's really wonderful. You're having a good time. And then they begin to become emotionally attached. They become emotionally involved. And the moment they do, you stop it. Am I right? Yes. I said, absolutely. Because here's what's wrong. They become emotionally involved, and here's what you're doing. Come here, I desperately need you, but don't get too close. Because if you knew me the way I know me, you wouldn't like me. I only want you to see me with my mask on. I only want you to see me with my success suit on. I don't want you to see me who I really am. And I said, do you see, you're not rational or realistic. There's nothing wrong with going to the gym. But at 32, to maintain that kind of figure and working 6 days a week is unrealistic. It's not going to work. By 35, you see, it's not going to work. I said, do you know why you're doing the gym? You wanted me to tell you, and I've told you, I'll tell you because I've asked you 2 questions that proves it. And here's why. You would so desperately, desperately love to be on the inside what you are on the outside. But you have no clue how to do that. And because you're a mess on the inside, and all your money, and all your career, and all your position, and everything you've got will never, ever, ever work on the inside. and your identity is in your looks. That's why you couldn't handle getting any orange peel or blemish on your skin. That's why you couldn't handle it. You couldn't grow old gracefully because your whole identity is in your looks. Your identity is in that body of yours. You're just a shell. You're empty. You got nothing on the inside, and you're just a total mess full of crap on the inside. This was this wonderful high-powered executive. I said, you know, you would just so love to be on the inside what you are on the outside. But since you can't be that on the inside, you'll keep working on the outside, because if you lost the outside and you have nothing on the inside, you would have nothing at all. And therefore you're trying to support. And I said, you know what? Those young girls will be envying you. They want to emulate you, and you've got nothing. You're just an empty shell. That's all you are. And how much you would love to be at peace on the inside, how much you'd love to get rid of the rubbish on the inside, how much you would like to have an identity on the inside, but it's all external. And as soon as you would get a blemish in your skin, as soon as you'd lose your job, as soon as you wouldn't be able to do something, as soon as you have a relationship that would go wrong, your whole world will come apart, because your identity is external and it's not on the inside. The only person who's really with it is a person who knows their identity on the inside and totally happy with themselves no matter what. She had not come for counseling, but now she's a mess. She shouldn't have come to me with so much mascara on, because now there's just big black cracks all the way down the face, and she starts coming apart. Do you see? That's why we could rub shoulders. Young women could look at that and think, boy, that's what I'd like to be. I wish I was there. Do you see? Position will not give it to you. Money will not give it to you. Education will not give it to you. Identity has to be something on the inside. And see, unfortunately, because she was from another state, I was not able to continue the counselling. But the great thing about it was that I was able to send her to people in the state that she'd come from, who had actually been trained in our conferences and that, and themselves were both psychologists. So she was able to go to them, which was great. Because, see, her life was coming apart. No wonder the psalmist says, be not envious of the evildoer. Do you see, people are using so much to cover up their stuffed up identity, because you know why? That's what they do. There's no value in this person. I feel bossy. I feel inadequate. I feel rejected. I feel that. Where did I get that from? I got it from my father. And into my life, in my identity messages that I receive from significant people, the name calling, the criticism, the abuse. And you can go on down with more. That's just an example. And you can go on down. Do you see those identity messages? Now let's revisit the thought we had before, and and that is when we were doing the 2 bags. Excuse me. The moment that we slipped into this world as a little baby, we began receiving identity messages from significant people that were going to form the way our world would be. And wherever we're fitting into our world, if we don't get a right identity, a healthy identity, a correct identity, we will finish up with a stuffed up identity, a bad identity like I will. And then what do? You become aggressive, or you become angry, or you become controlling, or you go to education, or you go to some kind of a thing that you mask with that looks better. Maybe it is money, maybe it is something else, whatever it might be. Or what do I then go? I then go to my idols. I then go to my coping mechanisms. And instead of some people going to power and control, instead of people going to education, instead of some people going to career, what do? They go to drugs. They go to alcohol. They go to porno. Because you know why? If that's what I'm like, if that's the way I am, that's the way then I can live. I could have gone like my father. I could have finished up becoming an alcoholic just like him. One of the most wonderful things about my father is that late in life, he had a wonderful salvation and came to Jesus. And now he's in glory. But do you see, the identity issue is so powerful. That's why everything revolves around it. If you don't get the identity right, you can work out with all the peripheral issues. You can spend so much time with myriad of problems, but the root rot lies in the diagram that you're now looking at. What do you feel at your worst moment about yourself? What would you put in at that list? That is when you're under pressure at your very worst moment. Because what I am at my worst moment is what I believe that I am. And then I'm back to my believing again that's controlling my life. It may not be who I am, but it's what I believe that I am. And do you see, the family of primary influence can give you those messages. And you know what? I think there's some school teachers here. School teachers have an incredible responsibility of bringing about right identity messages for kids. Today, unfortunately, in our country, teachers have, and I can understand it because of the way things are going, but they just care now for the academic kids, the kids that's going ahead, and don't stop to work with anybody of a problematical situation because they don't have time. You're not allowed to hug a child if it gets hurt now. You can't touch a child if it gets hurt now. You know, these radical knee-jerk reactions they make because somebody's abused somebody. And now teachers don't realize, you know what, I'm sitting in Auckland, in New Zealand. I was going over there to be the teachers in Rutherford High School. We're having an educator coming every week there. It's a secular school, secular college, and they were having an educator come, some from America, some from different parts that were flying in to do a day, and everybody had a day at the college. And I was on the first cab off the rank, and so my day, I talked about, because Carolyn Coyle, I don't know if any of you know Carolyn Coyle. Do you know Carolyn Coyle? Carolyn Coyle is one of the most equipped modern-day child training gurus and teaching in that capacity. So she was coming the day after I was there. So I called my day, the theme that I did for my day, I called it Barriers to Learning Skills. And I told them a little story in the way through that day. Only the day before, I counseled two people in Auckland, had come to see me from way up north. And the guy has a stutter. And he was telling me when I was doing counseling with them that when he was 7 years old, the teacher called him out and wanted him to discuss something, to explain something that she had written on the whiteboard. And he didn't understand it. He didn't understand what she had written. And so he doesn't know how to address it. So she's trying to tell him to get on with it. Tell us what it's saying. Tell us what the whiteboard. Tell us what I'm asking you. Share with the class. In the end, she humiliated him. She belittled him. She absolutely mocked him in front of the kids. And she finally forced something out of him. And when she did, he started to stutter. And he had never stuttered before. She forced him. The psychological effect that it had on him produced a physiological condition. And do you see, teachers have an enormous responsibility into the lives of children, because outside of the family of primary influence, school teachers have the greatest impact and spend the longest with the children. So it's a really important job to be able to give them a right kind of message, because kids come through school and they become dropouts. And some kids become into drugs, and some kids do, because of what happens in the school. When we come to putting this together and profiling it and bringing it together, you're going to be able to see how that affects people's lives, how a disaster it can be, and how destructive it can be into a person's life. And people are not allowed to be who they are. You know, there's a great scripture in Galatians 6 verse 2, and it says this: make a careful exploration of who you are. Now, see, that's what we're doing with people. That's what we want to work with people. That's the emptying of the bags with people. Make a careful exploration of who you are and the work that you've been given, and then sink yourself into that. Don't be impressed with yourself. Don't compare yourself with others. Each one of us must take responsibility for doing the creative best that we can with our own lives. You know, isn't that an amazing thing? I read earlier today about another part of that talked about not comparing yourself. Do you see how the scriptures keep saying that? Now, the reason why is because people do compare themselves with somebody else. I wish I had their looks. I wish I had their education. I wish I had their gifting. I wish I could do something like them. And we're either thinking that we're better than them or that we're worse than them. And as long as I do that, I'm living out of a false self. I'm living out of a false identity, comparing myself with somebody else. I'll never be like anybody else. And the problem with that is, then I'll never be free to be me. And it's so vital to come to the place that I can be totally free to be me, that I can enjoy me, that I can like me, and that I can love me. And I'm telling you, that is revolutionary and it's life-changing. Because no matter whether I was working with believers or non-believers, everybody's controlled from their identity. It doesn't matter if I'm working with the most academic person, the most spiritual evangelist. No matter who I'm working with at any social level, everybody is governed by their identity. And you know, some people you can sit with, incredibly academic. Some people seem ever so spiritual. But you know what? It's whatever you believe that rules you. It's whatever you believe on the inside. What you believe about yourself. That's what controls you. Everybody's controlled from their emotions. And tomorrow, of course, when we pull all this together, you're going to be able to see how powerful that is. And you know, I'm going to keep it as simple as I can because I want everybody to be able to do this with your friends, with your colleagues, you younger people. I love to see the younger people here. It's such a blessing because this is your generation. I want you to take it into your generation because by the law of averages, I'll be gone before you. And I want to see you take it, and I want to see you. That's my passion, that as I go and I get involved, and Dennis was asking me about, you know, what was driving me. But you see the passion I want to take. I don't want to live this long and make it unprofitable. I want to be able to pass it on to others, that the Holy Spirit will take it, that it'll give you some kind of a model, a kind of an understanding for bringing freedom to you, for bringing relief to you, for bringing fulfillment to you, to help you to find your place in society, and for you then to be able to go out and tell others and bring other people to freedom. It's the greatest fulfillment, and it's the greatest joy. First, my relationship with Him, and then being able to have a right relationship with other people, that I'm free within myself. You see, when you go into marriage and you just think about marriage, it's an incredible thing. You know something? We talked about it earlier on, that the primary purpose for marriage is to make you miserable. And to the degree that I want to have my own way, marriage will make me miserable. Now, here's the point. One of the things that's really interesting, people come to me, couples come to me, and you know what they say? She doesn't meet my needs anymore. He doesn't meet my needs anymore. Well, should they have been meeting the need in the first place? Secondly, they must have been meeting their needs, and they must have milked their needs. And they're milking their needs out of human beings. And we milk our needs, we milk our emotional needs out of other people. And other people don't know other people have no idea. They don't have it to give. I am not responsible for my wife's happiness. And my wife is certainly not responsible for my happiness. The moment you look to another individual for them to make you happy, you immediately becoming codependent to them, and they will control your life. And somebody will milk somebody, and they'll milk them dry. And the love tank will empty down. If you're going into a relationship, Michael, remember that. Your wife is not given to you to make you happy. She, thank you. No, I got to find happiness within myself. If my wife was the source of my happiness, then I would need to be home. I couldn't travel anywhere. I'd be totally and utterly dependent on her to make me happy. No, I'm happy. I'm happy. But you know something? When two happy people come together, then you have a happy relationship. That you're not milking out of each other and depending on each other. Identity. having a right identity, your fulfillment and your happiness is not coming from the job you have. It's not coming from the clothes you wear. It's not coming from the culture you came from. It's not coming from your education. It's not coming from your gifting. It's not coming from your calling. It has to come from within. It must come from within. It has to come from within. Now, I was working with an evangelist. This guy is great. I mean, he's just great. I worked with him at different weeks in a period of time, and I worked an entire week with him. And as I'm doing his profile and listening to him, I looked at him and I said, you know, I've never ever been in one of your campaigns. So I don't know what happens, except I'm going to tell you what happens in your campaign. But I've not been there. Because looking at his profile and talking with him. So I said, you know, in one of these big campaigns, the mayor's there, the doctor's there, the important politicians are there, you know, all along the front. And I said, I will guarantee when you finish, I'll guarantee when you finish your presentation, your gospel message, and people have come to Jesus, when you've finished, you walk right down. Mrs. Mayor, it's really nice to have you, madam. Did you enjoy that tonight? Are you happy with that tonight, the presentation? Did you like the message tonight?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And sir, lovely to have you, distinguished guest. How did you do tonight? Did you enjoy the message tonight?
Yes, I did.
Thank you very much. And yourself. And doctor, how did you go? And then did you enjoy the thing tonight? And then yourself, and how did you do it tonight, distinguished guest? Did you do? Yeah, you are. Thank you. And I went right along, you know. And you know what? He looks at me and he said, Ray, that's exactly what I do. How do you know that? I do it all the time. He said, Ray, that's just for encouragement. I said, no. Encouragement is something people give you. It's not something you milk out of people. And I said, I could prove this for you very quickly. What if one of those distinguished guests said, that's the worst message I ever heard? I don't agree with anything you're teaching. Tell me how you'd go. Oh, he said, I'd be shattered. I said, absolutely. I said, do you see, if you are going to look for that from people, then people will not always give you what you want. And if you're going to feel bad about criticism, then you're going to be exalted by praise. And do you see, here's a tragedy. You've got a gospel for thousands of unsaved people, and you get no gospel for yourself. You need the gospel of Jesus for yourself. You need to find your own identity. And you know what? This guy is well educated, incredibly gifted, a great figure, a great name person. But I'm telling you something. You should have seen his stuffed up identity. He sat in his seat and looked up at me, and he said, Ray, why did nobody ever teach us this? College never taught us this. Nobody's ever taught us this. And when we looked at his profile, saw his stuffed up identity, he couldn't believe it. And do you know what? That was revolutionary for a man, highly gifted, highly trained, and it was revolutionary. Do you see what I'm saying? You got to get it right on the inside. Are you happy with you? Are you at one with you? One of the most important things is I need to be at one with my God. I need to be at one with myself. And I need to be at one with my environment. Are you at one with yourself? Or do you have a conflicting dichotomy where you are putting on a mask or a success suit? And do you see when you watch somebody and they're involved in some things that you wouldn't know why they could be involved in, it's not about an evil heart. It's not just that they have gone and sinned. They're actually striving and struggling in their identity. You get your identity right, you get your life back into balance. It doesn't mean we don't get tempted. It doesn't mean that, no. It doesn't mean that we couldn't make mistakes. Sometimes we do. We fall. And sometimes we do make mistakes. It's like the little guy, you know. The little guy was fishing. And he had been fishing. And as he was fishing, he fell into the pond. And this guy walks past just as he's fishing himself out of there. And the kid's just pulling himself out of there. And the guy's walking past. And the guy looked at him and said, "How did you come to fall in?" He says, "I didn't come to fall in. I came to fish. And while I was fishing, I fell in." And sometimes we're fishing and we're involved in the work of God. We have a right heart and we can get into some trouble. But it's not the behavior's the issue. The thing is, God has made a provision for that because Jesus is the high priest who lives to make intercession when we fall in while we're fishing. Do you see that? That's the joy there is. And this part that we're doing now becomes one of the most incredible. Do you see this? You wouldn't have that because you got it on the sheet already. Oh, you got it? How about that? Yes. So now you know what that's saying. As long as you have a distorted identity, as long as you have a wrong identity, people can pull the strings of your life. People can just keep pulling the strings of your life. Excuse me, Pat. What's your name?
Miriam.
Miriam. What a nice name. Okay. I've been watching Miriam. She's sitting up the front here, and she's been taking down some notes. But during the time, she's sitting here, and she's looking like a little rabbit. She's just like a rabbit. Don't hit me yet. So Miriam looks at me and she says, "How dare you? You come all the way to Denmark and you're abusing me? You're insulting me in front of my friends? I can't believe that somebody in your position would come here and run me down. Does anybody else think I'm a rabbit here? Who else thinks I'm a rabbit? I can't believe that somebody would even suggest such a thing. I can't believe it." And in the end, I look at Miriam. My goodness me. Miriam must believe she is a rabbit. Because if she wasn't a rabbit, she would look at me and she would say, "Boy, Ray, you got your problems. When did you have your eyes tested last?" And it wouldn't bother her at all. In the first illustration, I would be pulling the strings of her life and making her go like a yo-yo and get her mad. And you know, I can prove what anybody believes about themselves. That when I say something to them, the way they react, by word or by deed, to what I say, proves it. Do you see, we say, "Oh boy, they make me so..." You're all right, Dan, you're a beautiful rabbit. People say, "Oh, they make me so mad. They make me so angry. They make my blood boil." You know something? Nobody has the power to make you angry. Nobody has the power to make you mad. And you boil your blood all by yourself. Do you see, we are empowering. When you say somebody makes me mad, what you're doing is you're empowering somebody else into your life to control your emotions. I watch little party spirits in church. Somebody gets rejected. Something's said. Oh, it's terrible. I can't believe it. How could they say that to Miriam? Oh, it's not true, Pet. I don't believe they would say things like that to you. No, don't cry, because that bloke should never have said that to you. He's so wrong. And they start consoling each other. How dare he say that? How dare they do that? And we get a little party and we all hug each other and we all try to help each other and support each other. And it's a lot of rubbish. Because it's not the person's fault that said it at all. It's not my fault that I would call her a rabbit. It's not my fault at all. It's how she responds to what I say. Because she didn't get upset, because she knows she's not a rabbit. At least we have established some sort of well-being in this place. She knows she's not a rabbit. Do you see, when somebody says something about you that causes you to act negatively or that you have rejected, it's not what the person said to you, it's what you believed about yourself. They either alluded to something that you hate about yourself and then you took it on board. It was not their fault. Now, it may not have been nice and it may not have been right that they should have said it. But it has nothing to do with somebody saying it. But how much do we lay the blame game on other people for the way that we feel? When you blame somebody else for your emotional well-being, those people are controlling your life. You can sit at your dinner table and you can blame the people down the road, you can blame the pastor, you can blame your brothers, you can blame your family, you can blame anybody else. But you know what? Those people that you're blaming are controlling your life, because whoever controls your emotions controls your life. And all you're doing is, you're just like a puppet, and they're all pulling the strings all the time. And they're pulling the string. You know what? It's so good to be free from the pull of somebody else's emotional. Well, you don't like me, remember? You don't like me. I haven't got a clue why not. But God bless you anyway. You do like me? Amen. Either way, you're not controlling my life. And do you see how that releases you then from this blame game, from blaming other people, from breaking? You see how many relationships are broken down, and they're broken down and stuffed up because other people are controlling us, and it's so easy to blame everybody else. People, the blame game started so early. Adam blamed Eve. Started in the garden. Adam blamed Eve, and she was the best woman in the world. He couldn't go round the corner and find another one. But let me tell you something. You always fall out with God before you fall out with your spouse. You always fall out with God before you fall out with the relationship. Because we're not in the place where we have a healthy emotional response. Do you see, Adam fell out with God. Eve was wonderful until Adam fell out with God. And then as soon as he fell out with God, he blamed his wife. I'm telling you, you fall out with God before you fall out with somebody else. That's why I got to get it right in my relationship, that I'm at one with myself. I'm not living with a dichotomy, not living, I go to keep going over there to talk to you people, but I have to be careful, you know. I'm supposed to be staying in a little circle here, and I keep forgetting where the line is. Do you see do you see what I'm saying, how wonderful it is when you're free from the emotional control of somebody else, when they can't keep pulling the strings of your emotional life, and I'm just free to be me, and you can't alter the color of my day, you can't alter the color of my world, you can't change my emotions, and that I can release you from whatever you're in and let you go, because you're not going to control my life. I am in control of my life. I am in control of my emotions. Why? Because I get my identity right. Do you see that? Now, that is absolutely vital. See that? Now, we're coming to the end of our day. Has it been a good day? You've enjoyed your day? You've hung on there well, and you've done really, really good. And so, do you have this one? Yes, yes. So now there is what we're saying, pulling that part together. We won't go into that little bit down the bottom there is where anger justifies rebellion. If you have a teenager and they want to rebel, you can be dead sure if they're fixing to rebel, they'll get angry. And they'll get you angry, and then it'll justify what they're doing. Anger justifies rebellion. Have you ever found that out? If you have any kids, maybe your kids didn't do that, but when children and teenagers are fixing to rebel, they will automatically find a way to get you angry enough to justify the rebellion. And it's coming out of the problem event situation. Now the problem, we're going to take this back up in the morning again. The problem is not the problem. Have you got that? The problem is not the problem. And whatever caused the problem, which would be called the event, is not the problem. So the problem's not the problem, the event's not the problem is the root rot of a stuffed up identity. So we're not going to get caught up in the presenting problem, and we're not going to get caught up in the event. That is the person that did it, whether it's the government, the council, my husband, my wife, my kids, my employer. No, see? The problem's not the problem, the event's not the problem lies inside me in my identity. Does that make sense for you? Do you see that? Now, I got to finish because you've done so well. Are you coming back tomorrow? Yeah. Because if you don't come back tomorrow, you're going to get hung up without the therapy. So we need you back tomorrow morning. What time are we starting tomorrow? 9:30. You'll be telling all that anyway when you finish off. Okay, listen. Thank you for spending your day with me today. I have so enjoyed spending my Saturday with you. So I pray that you've enjoyed spending your Saturday with me. But if you haven't, I love you anyway. Amen. I trust that you will rest well tonight and be refreshed, and that God will really minister to you, and the words will go from your head to your heart, and that it'll be of real advantage to your life and to what you're doing. And tomorrow morning, we will get back into it again, and then we've got to go like a rocket tomorrow because we finish at 4:30. Is that right? Yes, so there we go. All right, Brother Martin's going to take over, and so I will see you back in the morning again. God bless you, and thank you for spending the day with me. God bless you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Bless you.